Hello and welcome back to our channel. We're Harry and Charlene, a retired military couple living our dream of full-time international travel. Our $4,000 monthly military pension makes this possible and creates a lifestyle that we want. Please join us as we break down our monthly expenses for the month of April in Australia and Indonesia. So let's talk about our accommodation first. We spent our first 7 nights in a suburb of Sydney called Kellyville, which is where some good friends of ours, Sharon and Justin, live. And thanks to them for hooking us up for staying there for the first week that we were in Sydney. Yeah, we had a great time catching up with Sharon, who was one of the bridesmaids for Charlene 32 years ago when we were in London. And we really appreciate you guys, what you did. And then we spent our second week, or our last 7 days that we were in Sydney, in the Sydney CBD section in a hotel, and that was $98.75 per night. Then in Indonesia, we were in Surabaya, and we were there for 8 nights, and that was $22.50 per night. And then we finished up in Jakarta for 6 nights, and that came to $20.45 per night. So if you are counting, you probably have realized that
we're missing a night.
Yeah, we're missing. There's 29 nights. So we had an overnight flight from Sydney to Singapore, and from that flight we had to fly
Sydney to Surabaya.
Well, it was from Sydney to Surabaya, but we ended up going to Singapore to catch an early morning flight, which brought us into the next day. So that's why we have 29 nights instead of 30 nights that we've talked about. So because of that, we had that additional night of flight. So our total accommodation price for the month of April are $1,014.47. So our flights we want to talk about, we took a flight from Melbourne to Sydney, and then we have a flight from Sydney to, of course, Indonesia. So our total flights for both of those were $1,537.78 for both of us. And for our transportation for the month of April, in Australia, we spent $117.87 for the 2 weeks that we were there. This public transport system in Sydney was just incredible, in my opinion. From the time we got out the airport, we took the metro to Kellyville, where we spent time with Sharon and Justin, and it was incredible. It was just basically tap on, tap off with your credit card, and I really loved it. Even coming back into Sydney CBD and going around to the different locations, whether it be by ferry, it was just incredible. And in Indonesia, we spent $41.35 for the entire 14 rides that we did over 15 days. I mean, I thought it was just incredible. The Grab ride share, Grab is like Uber, costs so little that we used it exclusively. We really didn't have a chance to test out the transportation system there, whether it be bus or whatever. But our most expensive trip was an hour ride for an airport to the hotel, which was about $13 US. So this was just, it was just great. And I really loved Indonesia as far as transportation goes. Anyway, our transportation costs for the month of April were a total of $159.22.
So another big category, restaurants and eating out. Since we caught up with lots of friends and family in Australia, we ate out a lot. So our total for the 2 weeks in Australia came to $533.71. Because we were staying in hotels in both Surabaya and Jakarta that provided a breakfast buffet, I mean, it was huge. We ate once in the morning, and that did us for basically the rest of the day until dinner. So we only ate out one meal a day, which was really nice. So for the whole 2 weeks we were there, we only spent $220.62. So combined total for the whole month between Australia and Indonesia for eating out was $754. And of course, we all know that I love my coffees. Now, most of my coffees in Australia were included in meals, so they weren't separated out. So I did have more coffees than it implies, but the total for the whole month was $33.79. Didn't have a lot in Indonesia. I wasn't that fussed on Indonesian coffee, but had some interesting other drinks. So, and as far as groceries, we spent $173 on groceries in Australia. Mostly, don't look at me like that. Mostly it was to kind of replenish and what we had used from our friends that we were staying with, and we cooked some meals. Well, I say we cooked some meals for us.
I made some pulled pork barbecue for them, so that was fantastic.
It was pretty cool. We had $25 of groceries in Indonesia, which was basically just cold water and snacks, nothing major. So the total for the month was $198.88.
So we both needed to purchase a 30-day visa when we entered or arrived in Indonesia, which cost approximately $30 each. We were told we would need to provide passport photos for the visa, so we got some photos made before we left Sydney. So we purchased them in Australia for $28, but we never needed them.
Nobody asked.
Yeah, so we still keep them just in case we get asked in the future. But in any case, our visa fees were $87.07. So for the month of April, we do love sightseeing like every other month. But in Sydney, we went to the Sydney Centre Point Tower, or Centre Point, and that cost us, for both of us, $50.30. Some fantastic views at the top. You couldn't beat it. And then, of course, when we were in Indonesia, we went to Monument Museum Surabaya, which cost us a whopping $1.78. And then we went to a Russian submarine museum in Surabaya as well, which is pretty unique.
It's kind of weird.
It was neat to see a Russian submarine
in the middle
on
of
display.
Indonesia.
But there's a history behind it, so you'll have to wait for our Indonesia video. But that cost us $2.97. And then we did this exclusive train ride, which I thought was pretty nice. It was the executive train from Surabaya to Jakarta in the executive suites. And that cost us a total of about $255.83. But it was pretty unique to experience that because, I mean, it was just a little bit more than flying, but it was just a unique experience. So our total for the month of April for sightseeing was $310.88.
So, in the month of April, we had a little bit in our general fund. Because we are staying in a lot of hotels this year, we're trying to make status with both IHG and Hyatt. So we're staying in hotels a lot of the time, which either don't have washing facilities or you have to pay for them. So in the general fund, we had $18.92, which was basically laundry and a couple of postcards and postage back home. We've added a category called personal care, which is kind of anything health related that doesn't naturally fit anywhere else. So this month it was $45.66. I found these cool pain patches called Tiger Balm pain patches. I didn't realize you could get them in the States, but I've been finding them now almost everywhere we go. They're amazing. But they're very different in price from one place to the next. So I'm going to do a write-up on our Facebook page and kind of compare prices on the exact same item in all these different countries we've been to. But they're very cool. If you ever come across them, they certainly work. They're great.
And does this personal care items, does it include like deodorants and stuff like that? Yeah. Razors? Okay. I do need to shave maybe sooner. I don't know.
One thing we did have this month was a fee for currency exchange. Normally when we get to a new place, we just get money out of the ATM and we're good to go. But we knew that we needed cash in local currency to get our visa on arrival. So we actually did an exchange at the airport before we got to Indonesia. So it cost us $5.60, but it's good peace of mind. I mean, for me, it was worth it. We had cash, we got our visa on arrival, we walked through, everything was sweet. Yeah,
one thing we want to try to reduce is the amount of currency that we're carrying around with us. And we had a fair bit of an Australian dollar left, so it's like, let's just cash this. And then if we need more cash when we get to Indonesia, we'll do that.
Not sure what happened to our eSIM during the month of April. I think I probably left it on my phone. But
we used it.
Yeah. Harry bought 2 gig when he was in Australia, and I used almost 2.8 gig on my global plan as well. So this month we spent $14.28 on eSIM usage.
Yeah, well, that money that I spent on my eSIM was for the country of Indonesia. But we found when we got to Indonesia, the eSIM really was very spotty, and it wasn't working as well as we thought it would be. So I think we're just going to stick with global for a bit, because I don't think I want to buy one for each country. So when it comes time for me to buy a new one, I'll just buy a global.
And like every month, we have our subscriptions, Amazon Prime and NordVPN, plus the ones we use as full-time travelers that probably you may not use. Dropbox, RV Escapees Mailbox, and Clipchamp for Harry doing YouTube. So one thing that did come up was our travel spend app, our annual subscription, which was $24.99. This is something we use every day. We track all of our budget. This is how we keep up with all those little cents and dollars everywhere. We track everything through it. It gives us the pie charts, it gives us the breakdown, and it keeps us on track to make sure that we're getting close to our budget. We can kind of reevaluate if we need to. So for us, it's really important. So anyway, between the $25 for the annual subscription and all our regular monthly subscriptions, our total for the month was $84.72.
So our TRICARE health insurance, it's a monthly enrollment from TRICARE Select, which is $30.41, and that's for myself and Charlene. And our medical costs were $1.87.
Whoa!
Break the bank. So I had to restock a prescription, which is I was almost out of. I probably have maybe less than a week of this prescription, and it's a U.S. made medication. Usually cost me around $14 back in the U.S. After insurance.
For a month.
For a month, yes. So I went into this pharmacy in Surabaya, Indonesia, and I said, look, could I get this? And can I get at least 30 or 40 days worth? And they're like, yeah, sure. No check of my passport. No. I did bring the little bottle in to see if it is a legit prescription, but they didn't care about seeing that. But they gave me 40 days worth of the prescription, and they said that'll be in the Indonesian currency, but it came to $1.87. So I was just like, what a difference.
And they gave us everything that they had. They said, this is all we've got, but you can have 40 days worth.
Right. I mean, that probably could have got more. But... All right, the April wrap up. Our total for the month came to, in Australia and Indonesia, $4,297.88, which comes to about $143.29 per day. Over budget, a little smidgen, but still not too shabby. I mean, especially since we spent 2 weeks in Sydney in Australia. I mean, we still want to give a big thanks out to Sharon and Justin and Kate and her man Sam and the 2 furry ones for hooking us up for the first week we were there, for staying at their place in Kellyville. It's been fantastic catching up with you. Another person that we caught up with in Australia was Jax Daly.
Yeah.
Great guy. We knew when we were living in New Zealand, but he treated us to dinner one night, and we wanted to give a shout out to him for that. So, of course, our time in Indonesia helped out balance things too. So, I mean, it's just an overall great experience. So stay tuned for those videos coming up in the near future. So we hope we've provided you some insight to our experiences in Australia and Indonesia, our expenses. And we hope that maybe that's also encouraged you to maybe look at some things in your travel plans as well. And maybe some of those budget conscious things in your upcoming destinations. We intend on doing these budget videos on a monthly basis going forward, like we have in the past year. And we're always open to questions and comments. And we greatly appreciate the fact that you like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon and continue to follow us on our worldwide adventures. Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate it.